Hey, what's going on, my beautiful White Line agents? Colin here, and we are on day 9 of our Let Me Read the Book for You series. And the book we are working through is Three Clients in 30 Days by Krista Mashore. And again, this one's not really in the book, but I'm going to throw this one in here because it doesn't really define it. If you have bought the book, read the book, you'll see what I'm talking about. If you haven't bought the book, I'd highly recommend it because I could be full of crap. You never know. That's why we have books, so we know who's lying, who's telling the truth. Read the book if you get a chance. If not, I'm your second best thing, and you're just going to have to take me for trying to help you. And that's what I'm doing here. So today is day 9, and we're talking about neighborhood research, knowing your market inside and out. Earlier in this lesson series, I told you it's like, hey, you need to find a neighborhood to be an expert about. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how to become that expert. If you don't know your neighborhood, you're not an expert. You're just another name on a sign. And today I'm going to show you how to dig deep into that neighborhood research so buyers and sellers see you as the authority, okay? Why this matters. Why does it matter to know your craft, guys? Because people don't hire MLS agents for access or agents for MLS access. That's not why they hire you. There are hundreds of services where you pay somebody $100 and they'll throw it in the MLS for you and do absolutely nothing. And if you're doing that, you're a bad real estate agent. You've got to be doing more. They hire you because of your knowledge, okay? And to start out, to build that expertise, to build that trust, finding your neighborhood is going to be the most important thing. It's your authority, and that is your referral power, guys. I'm Referrals are the only way you're going to stay alive in real estate. And if you are not an expert in something, then you're not going to stay alive. Okay. And investors, which I like to work with, especially rely on hyper local insights to make fast decisions. They need to know that you know what you're talking about. They've got to be able to trust you. And then they're going to make fast decisions because real estate deals in the investment world move very, very quickly. So, what do we need to track when we're researching neighborhoods? Okay. What is that core information that we need to have? Well, the first thing is recent sales. You need to know every house that is sold in whatever that little defined market it is. Like I told y'all earlier, I live in Buffy of Camino Real. I can tell you just about every single house that's on the market right now, and I can tell you how much every house is sold for. But there's more important than just knowing what it's sold for because my neighborhood houses range from probably a half a million up to 1.5. And the price per square foot is a very big indicator because my neighborhood was built in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, and there's this big shift happening because I'm an expert in my neighborhood. I know this. There's a big shift because everybody that built here in 1980, like my house was built in 1980, and I bought this house from Merle Polinsky when she passed away. I bought it from her estate. She lived here from 1980 until she passed away. I am the second homeowner on this 40-year-old house. Guys, 45-year-old house. So these people stay here for a long time, but when I bought my house, it was not updated. Everything was in its original. It was pristine, but it was in its original 1980s setting. It was all the same stuff. We had teal carpet in the living room, wallpaper in the dining room, all of that kind of stuff. So I can tell you very quickly if it's an unimproved house or an improved house by the price per square foot. That's very, very important. I can tell what's going on with that. So price per square foot's a big one. Time on market, right? Which one's sold for cash? That's going to tell you which ones are being flipped and which ones are financed. Guys, it's very easy to look all that stuff up. That's not the point of this one right here, but you can look those things up by going into the MLS because it'll show you the terms at which they bought the house. So what inventory are in this neighborhood, right? So I know what recently sold and I know what's available. Okay, what's active, what's pending, what's been expired, what's been withdrawn, how much are they asking for it? Are they asking too much? What's a more realistic thing? Because I know all the sales and I know what they sell for price per square foot. All my houses in my neighborhood sell somewhere between 200 and kind of depending on the finishes up to 275 a square foot. And if somebody's asking 350 a square foot, they're crazy. And I know that. And that's a deal right there that I'm going to hawk. I'm just going to hover around that thing because I know it's going to come down and we're going to find them at the right time. I also know what's expired and what's been withdrawn. Expired listing, guys, is if you remember, whenever you fill out your representation agreement, you say, hey, I'm going to represent you for 6 months. And you put that in the MLS. And when that expires, that's an expired listing. So they're probably looking for a new realtor because that realtor couldn't sell in 6 months. You need to know which ones are expired, which ones are withdrawn. That means we put it on the internet, on the MLS, and it's still within that time frame, but we decided to pull it off because Maybe we need to do some repairs. Maybe there's some extenuating circumstances, but it doesn't matter, guys. You need to be the expert and know that. The next thing you really need to know in your neighborhood is what are the rental comps? That's a big one, guys. What does a house rent for in my neighborhood? The neighborhood that I own, what are rental comps? How much is it renting per square foot? Is it a dollar per square foot, a dollar 50 per square foot? Those are things that you should absolutely know. And can I do long-term rentals? What do those rent for? Can I do short-term rentals? Huh. Can we do Airbnb? That's something you definitely need to know. And if you need some help with that, guys, the city of San Antonio, where I live, there's only certain areas that I can do short-term rentals. So I need to know if I can do it, which my neighborhood is not one of them. We live in an HOA. It's forbidden by the HOA, but the HOA covenants actually say that it's only 1 month rentals, like 1 month at a time. I can do that. I can't do anything less than a month. That's a short-term rental. I can do a 12-month rental, but it says it has to be more than a month. So that actually opens me into midterm rentals, which are fantastic for, traveling nurses, things like that. They usually have to be furnished. That's a whole nother story. But you need to know what's going on in your neighborhood. So recent sales, inventory, rental comps, and is there any new construction going on? That's a big one, guys. And you can search that by looking up the permits, builder projects, neighborhood expansions, all of that. Now, my neighborhood, we're fully developed. There are no things like that going on. But if you're in a neighborhood where they are expanding, that's going to make some houses harder to sell because new builders have incentives that we can't really compete with. So you need to know that, and you need to be able to position yourself as the expert in that. When somebody goes, how long is it going to take me to sell my house? Well, they're building new houses over here, and they got a financing incentive of 3.5%, which means you're going to have to list your house at this amount in order to make it competitive with that. Guys, you need to be researching that. You need to know your neighborhood upside down, inside and out. The other things that you need to track when you're researching your neighborhood, guys, is you need to know the lifestyle and community data. I just told you, I was like, half my neighborhood is people that have lived here since 1980. The other half of my neighborhood are young professionals with children. That is my neighborhood. So what things like in the lifestyle and community data that are important in my neighborhood are what school districts, which schools are rated, are people transferring, doing school of choice, are they doing private schools? That's what I need to know. Other things that I'm very familiar with in my neighborhood is crime reports and safety perception. Is there much crime? What kind of crime is it? Is it property crime? Is it physical crime? Are they robbing people? Are they breaking into houses? How often does that happen? People want to know that, especially moving into my neighborhood, because the people that are moving in have young children. They want to know. How close are we to things like jobs and public transportation, shopping, parks, hospitals? It really depends. You need to know what's around. Now, that's easy for my neighborhood because I kind of live in North Central and we're close to everything, which is nice. But transit's something we're not real close to, right? We don't have public transportation really in my neighborhood. So you need to know those kind of things. If you're in an HOA, what is unique about your HOA? HOAs are very polarizing, guys. Some people love HOAs, some people hate them. Everything's a double-edged sword in real estate, so there's not a right or wrong answer with this. But what are the rules? Are there odd rules for your particular HOA? Like you can't have whatever. What are the benefits of the HOA? Like, do we have pools and walking trails and lake access? What are the things that go on there? Because that is big for investors. Investors really want to know how the HOA works because they're going to be into the middle of all of that when they have renters in there. What are some of the local quirks? So that's kind of a tricky one, but you need to know this. Is there any flood zones in your neighborhood? Where are they? Which street? Where are they going? There's a drainage ditch that runs right through the middle of my neighborhood, and there's some houses that kind of have a little bit of flood hazard there. Are there historical districts in your neighborhood, which would make things like rehabbing a property a little bit more difficult? What are your property tax rates? That's really interesting. San Antonio, as a city, has very different taxing jurisdictions. Just because your address says San Antonio, Texas at the end does not mean that you have the same taxing jurisdictions that I do. Now, me personally, I have a ton of them. Like I pay taxes to the university healthcare system. I pay it to the San Antonio Community College thing. I got a ton of tax lines. But just on the other side of the road from me is Hill Country Village. And I'm not kidding. It's less than a quarter mile to Hill Country Village, and they have very different taxes. You need to be familiar with that, and you need to understand. If you don't know how to look up taxes, go to bcad.org if you're in Bexar County. But whatever county you're in, just type in the county appraisal district, and it'll come up. So you need to know the lifestyle and community data. That's a big one. Okay, you've got to know what's happening. Why is your neighborhood different? Where are you going to spend money? Where are you going to be regulated? Where are you going to have entertainment value? All those kind of things. So you need to know your lifestyle and community data. And then the next one is that not publicly found data, that boots on the ground intel, which means I need to drive my neighborhood. I need to know what's going on. I'd recommend you drive it once a week. I do it all the time with my dog. I walk the neighborhood with my dog. I take every different street I can find, and I go around and I see what's going on. Like, these people are rehabbing this house. These people are doing this. This guy, like, there's a guy that put a big green dinosaur in his front yard. It's like, is that offensive? Is it not? Like, what's going on with that? You need to know the boots on the ground intel. Take photos of what's going on. So that helps you a lot if there's a distressed home. Like, if you see a house with an overgrown yard and the roof's falling in, you need to know that one. You need to know where the for sale by owners are, because those are good people to talk to. You need to pay attention to signs of transition. Like, is my neighborhood growing and improving, or is it diminishing and getting worse? If it's diminishing and getting worse, that means you've got more opportunity for remodels, people to come in, take care of stuff like that. If it's expanding and growing, that is a good market for young families and people that want to have nicer rentals. It gives you opportunities to find flipped homes. There's a ton of things. Pay attention to what's happening into your neighborhood. And the last thing about boots on the ground intel is talk to your neighbors. Talk to them. If you're walking the dog, stop and talk to somebody who's walking their dog. I do it all the time, guys, because you're going to learn information that's not known by other people. I cannot tell you. I'm like, I'll be walking a dog and I see this house. I feel like it's been under construction for 6 months, which we have one of those. I'm like, hey, do you know that guy? Do you know what's going on with this house? And there's one house that's been under construction for the longest time. And I've looked at the permits, and the permits are still active and all this kind of stuff. And when I talk to the neighbors are like, yeah, it's weird. He's got some people that he works with, but they only show up once every couple months, and this, and that. And you'll learn that intel that makes you sound like an expert, because you know this neighborhood inside or out. Okay. If you're working with investors, if that's kind of your bag, that's what you want to do. Like, investors want to know what the trajectory is. Like, where is this neighborhood going? If I buy this house, if I make this couple $100,000 investment, is my investment going to grow or diminish? That's really important. Is it stable? Is it rising, declining? Look for rental demand. Like, if there's, you need to know the days on market, not just for houses that are sold, but also houses that are rented, because investors like to rent their properties, right? So, this house was on the market for rental for 3 days. This one's on the market for rent, but they just have a sign in the yard, and it's been there for 2 months, and I don't see it in the MLS, but I know that because I've been driving around and seeing it all the time. So those are the really big things. And so when you know that information, when you're talking to an investor client, they're going to know what the exit strategy is. Do I need to flip this? Do I need to rent it? Do I need to Airbnb it? Do I need that? All of that is super important, guys. So you've got to get out there and know your neighborhood. So how do you find this? It's really pretty simple, guys. I've got a bunch of videos if you go back into my YouTube, but the MLS is the first place I stop for everything. Not only because, yes, I can do an MLS search and I can search for properties, but you can do area reports, neighborhood reports. You can really dial in to see all of that stuff. The next place I look for information is actually from the MLS. So Sabor is my primary one. And Sabor sends out a weekly email that says, hey, all this stuff in Sabor, this is how many houses sold. This is what the average price was, the median price. And if you go into it and you look a little bit deeper, they will give you so much market data. It'll wear you out, okay? So you need to be looking at those. You need to be looking at your local appraisal district. I talk about that too. Who really owns that? Are these all rentals? Are these all owner occupied? How do you know if it's a rental? Well, if you go to the county appraisal district, you'll see, like, this is the property address and this is their mailing address. If those are different, then they don't live in the house, right? They're getting something else. You can also, if your neighborhood's in the middle of expansion, you need to be very well versed in what the city's planning, zoning board agendas. Like, are they trying to rezone this area? Are there a bunch of building permits coming in for this area? Are there a bunch of rehab permits coming in? All of that's really important. And the last place that I always look is Facebook groups or next door. Like, are you in your next door neighborhood or your Facebook group for your neighborhood? Because that's where the gossip comes from. And gossip is very, very touchy, guys. You got to be careful with gossip because sometimes it's just gossip, and sometimes it kind of leads you into the right direction of what people are thinking about the neighborhood or what they're doing. So, kind of take that with a teaspoon, but gossip's important because that's how you hear what's coming next before you actually get the data. So again, guys, for this next exercise, I really want you to pick one neighborhood. And if that is your neighborhood where you live, great. If it's the neighborhood where you want to become an expert in, like I really want to do luxury listings, so I'm going to look over here, or I really want to do rentals, so I'm going to look over here, or I just want to become the expert in my neighborhood because like being the expert in my neighborhood is quite profitable because we have expensive houses and people know me and trust me. And once again, I've said this before in this series, get involved in your community. Like I'm the president of my HOA. I don't say that as a brag. It's a huge pain in my ass, to be honest with you. But I say that because now everybody in this neighborhood knows exactly who I am. But pick one neighborhood, figure that out, pull the last 6 months or so of data, and really study it. Like get to know it, understand it, drive around, take some notes, take some photos, see what's going on in your neighborhood, and then kind of like I've said this 100 times, guys. I'm a big fan of putting a pen onto a piece of paper and writing stuff down. What are you noticing? Man, these houses on the street are all for sale. This one street over here has a huge oak wilt problem. This street over here has this. Start just jotting your notes down. Not because I need you to keep it and I want you to have a diary of your neighborhood. If you want to do that, great, don't care. But just because there's something about taking a pen and writing things down that it sticks in your memory better, right? That's what we all learned in high school. Take notes. So today's homework is simple. Find your neighborhood. Identify it, write it down on a piece of paper. My neighborhood is Bluffview of Camino Real. That's where I live. Research it like your paycheck depends on it. Research it like if I came to you and I'm like, you are going to get $1 million if you can tell me X, Y, Z, D, and you can pull that right out of your back pocket and go, these are your answers. So really, truly research it and learn it. So by tomorrow, you should be an absolute expert. You've got the data, guys. It's going to take you a little while. It'll take you an hour or so to sit down and write all this down, go drive through your neighborhood, figure out what's going on. If you have questions on how to look for things like permits or zoning or whatever, put it in the comments on this page. I'll see it and we'll go ahead and address it. Now, I'll show you how to do it. I don't want to make these 45-minute videos, but really become the go-to expert on one neighborhood because you will completely change the way you look at real estate once you become an expert. I don't need you to become an expert in marketing right now. I don't need you to become an expert on selling right now. I need you to become an expert on your neighborhood. Become a real estate expert. And it's hard to do that. So focus your efforts, pick one neighborhood, okay? And you will love what's going to happen when you get that because you're going to be able to talk to people more intelligently. You're going to feel a lot more confident. It's going to help with all your cold calling. It's going to help with all of that kind of stuff, guys. So your homework, find a neighborhood, do everything that I just told you guys. I want you to go through, I want you to find the core data, sales, inventory, rental comps, new construction. I want you to know the lifestyle and community data, school district ratings, rezoning changes, crime reports, proximity to everything, HOA rules, any local quirks. I want you to drive through the neighborhood, understand who's for sale by owner, which ones are rentals, all of that stuff. Sit down and do it. It's going to take you a while, not going to lie, but the more you do it, the more you're going to get intrigued with it. More than likely, you're going to be like, oh my God, I didn't know they were remodeling, whatever. It doesn't matter. You're going to become a little bit of a nosy neighbor, but that's what your job is. So, love you guys. Today's homework, learn your neighborhood. That's it. It's simple, sweet, and I will see you guys.